Welcome. Reskill, upskill, repeat, the only career rule that still works. In a world where job roles evolve faster than job titles, staying still is not an option. Automation, AI, constant market disruption mean that even experienced professionals are being asked to learn new tools, adapt to new industries, and rethink what career success looks like. Today's discussion will explore how professional diplomas, certifications, and mid-career learning programs are helping individuals not just stay employed, but stay in demand. Whether it's a reinvention, a pivot, or an upgrade, call it what you will, lifelong learning is no longer an option, it's the edge. Let's start. Dr. Arpita, we often hear the phrase second act or career pivot. What do you see driving more professionals to reinvent themselves mid-career?
In my opinion, the mid-career means you have to relook at reskilling yourself or upskilling. Now, these are the two different things that we look at. If I'm looking for an advancement in my career, I have to upskill myself. Probably if I'm looking for something using my present skill set, then I may have to look at the new career options. I may have to re-skill at my own credentials. If I do not do that, considering like you have already mentioned technology, digitization we are talking about, and then there is new set of industries which are coming up. There are societal shifts that we are referring here. For example, the gig economy that we are talking about. So, considering the major changes that the economies are undergoing, the transformations that is happening at various levels, it is very significant. The mid-career shift becomes, I think, a very crucial aspect. Like World Economic Forum has even mentioned that 22% of the jobs are really going to shape up or change in its shape up because of the technological changes in the next 5 years. So that's a major pivotal shift, and they're already having this revolution of upskilling and reskilling, which is started in 2020. So yes, that's a very major pivot, as you may call it.
Hisham, is career reinvention becoming more of a necessity than a choice?
That's an interesting question because ever since the time the calculator was discovered and industries changed, we then went on to computers, we then went on to software. So the requirement for reskilling has always been there. But the conversation that we see happening now is because the disparity, the level, the distance between the skill that is required and the skill that a professional currently has. So if you are to progress, the requirement to reskill, which has always been there, is still prevalent. But the extent to which you need to reskill has significantly transformed in terms of the volume that is necessary and also in terms of the discomfort of which you have to do. Previously, if I was to reskill, I would probably have to go and look at something that is still relevant in my industry. But now I'm being asked to look through something like generative AI that would make me faster, more responsive, and connect with my audience, which is something outside my comfort zone. So in terms of being able to pivot and reskill, the distance from my comfort zone and the degree, the sheer volume of that reskilling is the difference that I see compared to what it was earlier.
So it's just as necessary, but there are larger magnitudes of pivoting involved.
Absolutely.
Vignesh, in the financial realm, what value do employers place on short form learning, certificates, micro credentials, compared to traditional degrees? I mean, I would call these courses and rather than.
I think I love that question because that is what I do for a living. Uh, Essentially,
You're
train
welcome.
candidates to skill up using professional finance accounting qualifications. And I can only speak from that domain. My expertise is restricted to that. But clearly, what you are seeing is a landscape change where employers expect candidates to keep pace with the changes. As my co-panelists mentioned, the changes come from many sides: geopolitical, technology, AI, a lot of things changing around us, and employers expect the change to be incorporated into the learning of candidates, of their employees. And clearly that is driving the need for short certifications, because what you learn today becomes outdated in 3 years. So how do you keep on top of things? Essentially by continuously skilling up through a lot of micro short courses, professional short certifications, which I think is the way forward. You can clearly see that there is a lot of demand for that already in the marketplace.
Thank you. Krishna, you're coming to us from both the recruitment side, but also within the academic realm. Are there specific industries where professional certifications are now the main entry ticket?
I think it's always there. To answer the question precisely, this is the trend for almost everything has changed, but this is not changed. If you to put that in perception, companies, say for example, you got 10 students from different university apply to one particular position. How do you differentiate one from the other? The short-term certifications and the experience through that. Now, the critical part here is, we all come from a different generation, to be honest, Now we're talking about Gen Z, Millennium. What do they expect? They need everything faster. Even I think with Talabat and Noon coming in, I think the food itself, the whole map has changed, right? We don't wait for, likewise now this skilling, pretty often we used to deal with parents asking us that, why are you taking 3 years for undergraduation degree? We can do it in 1.5 years, we can do it in 2 years. So the math which was followed for the undergraduation is being challenged and shaken now. And that's what you can see from several universities having 5 intakes, 3 intakes. Technically, you're not answering the question, but you're trying to give some sort of a solution to the parent that, okay, fine, something is happening, but I'm not sure what is happening. But yeah, but there is a change. But the base is still the same. We have a very strong logic of having 3 years for an undergraduation so that you have enough time to understand and have those experience in place. Now,
I was going to say, do you respond to those parents that 3 years is 3 years of maturity and life
yeah,
experience?
exactly. They, in the sense, that's what. They expect everything like Talabat and Noon, Why should I wait for 3 years? Why can't we do it? So the answer for them is it takes time for things to mature. And if you're going to hurry certain things, the whole process will be for a waste. Now, you got many universities. What is the key aspect that a student from an university gains? It's experience. If you are going to fast forward those experience, you will miss out on so many points, so many. End of the day, you're not going to have that 360 experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Arpita, what do employers really think about upskilling? Are they actively supporting it, or are professionals mostly on their own? And I think we're talking here about upskilling within the workplace.
I think if you look at the progressive organizations, I am a core academician, I'm a researcher, and I specialize in, like you, in finance. I think from an employer's perspective, if you have a learning culture within your organization, like we focus a lot on continuous professional development. If we look at the youngsters, they also need to constantly, like you said, upskill themselves, because it is a crucial aspect. Many employers, they take a key role. Just before coming to this panel discussion, I was completing one of the information security training, which was a part of my role as a researcher and as a faculty, that I should be knowing how to protect the data. So just a very simple, very basic example, but it is from my employer. So I think when you are in a learning organization, when there is a focus on innovation, not on the repetitive task, when you are focusing on how you bring something new on the table, your employer definitely focuses on bringing more and more trainings for you. We have multiple trainings, and a lot of institutions, a lot of my colleagues that probably have joined other institutions, they're mostly in this era of constant change and volatility. I think the focus is on training from employers as well. However, there are many organizations, institutions where employers are on their own as well. And I feel it is equally important from a personal perspective. Yes, my employer would say, go ahead with this XYZ training. But from a personal perspective, I think I am on my own as well. I may, like I said, I specialize in finance. So probably doing FRM is not the requirement of my employer. Doing or qualifying myself for a CFA is not the requirement of my employer. But then I'm on my own on this. So I think there is a balance here. The
A
learning
dual
organization,
responsibility.
absolutely, but it is important. That's how I feel.
I want to look at this question again, Hisham, from a different angle. Can employers afford not to focus on workplace learning, especially in the realm of data security, cyber security, all these things that protect their interests? And another aspect to it, it seems like maybe it's just the larger organizations that are the learning organizations. Maybe the startups don't have enough time, resources, scope.
That's an interesting aspect to it. It's like an onion, it's got multiple layers. Previously, when I was qualifying, I was told that get your chartered qualification. For the next 40 years, you don't have to do anything because you will be considered a domain expert. Less than 5 years down that road, I realized the harsh truth that unless you keep learning, you are running hard to stay in the same place. From a personal perspective, the requirement to upskill was really important because my career trajectory took rather odd shapes. I started off in audit, then I went into finance, then I went into capital markets, then I worked in the government sector, and then now I work full-time in training. So had I not upskilled for those relevant industries, I would have become irrelevant rather quickly as well. But one thing that really helped me was that the organizations that I worked for, they extended their hands halfway too. Only one organization over the last 23 years of me working has said that your learning has to be on your own time. Everyone else said, yes, what you're doing is actually going to help us. So let us do two things for you. First of all, let us help you with your qualification. Second of all, let us align your career path in such a way that the qualification becomes useful to us as well. So that really helped in the transformation of my career. To answer the question, organizations and the employee have to work together if they are to make a tangible change. If an employee upskills him or herself, independent of his or her job role, then invariably you will see that that employee is probably going to make a shift to a better job. And also, if the employer does not incorporate an L&D, learning and development culture, where they look at the job role critically in order to identify what's happening out there and how does the person's specification change, you're going to be recruiting and training essentially dinosaurs. So to summarize, it becomes really important for these three elements of the triangle to work together. The institutes that provide the training, the companies that require this training, and the employees who undergo this training to work together to understand the purpose of the training so that the job of the future becomes one that we can prepare for right now.
Thank you. Vignesh, staying with workplace training, even in organizations where there is a strong learning culture, there may be defined courses, certifications, micro-credentials that employees are required to do for security reasons, for example. There may be a menu of optional things that they might like to select from. Where is the scope for an employee to think, I would like to develop in this particular area? I would like to propose some education for myself at your expense. Where is there scope for this? Within reason.
I think, as my co-panelist mentioned, I think it's mixed. It depends on what the culture within the organization is. I'd say about there are organizations which are open to this. There is a culture, a mindset of accepting that sometimes it's not just about what's important to work. It's also about retaining talent. Because I think whatever, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, whatever you call it, is not there just for the money. And I think it's important organizations recognize that Clearly, they are interested in skilling up. And therefore, irrespective of whether it adds value to work or whether it immediately contributes to workplace, my view is this is a form of compensation. This is a form of giving back to the employee as well. But there are, in this wide world, there are organizations which are very close to that. For that matter, even any form of training, forget coming up with something that suits them or of interest to them. But I think it's just very, very, variable landscape that you have there.
It kind of falls in the realm of, I mean, maybe some of the older generations might think of these things as gimmicky, but if they really connect with millennials and Gen Z about having a holistically favorable place to work and spend 8 hours of your day. Yeah. Yes, please, Dr. Apita.
That's very correctly pointed out, actually. And that's actually, this topic is very personal to me. I believe a lot in reskilling and upskilling. Uh, the generational difference is something I discuss even with my younger students and also with my older students. Now, why is this important? Like you said, the scope, how much there is a scope of suggesting changes. It depends, like he also mentioned, that it depends on what kind of organization it is. For example, if I'm dealing with a Gen Z, and there are a lot of Gen Zs, possibly I would see them here today. So they are very open for discussions. There is a generational change, but if you speak, I'm a millennial, I think, ready to accept what you give me. It's a generational changes. If you go back to the baby boomers, I think they were head on to, again, something that was given. But Gen Z, if you have an organization which has a more younger culture, I think that's where there's a scope. They're ready to probably ask that this is what exactly my job requires. I think what constitutes your organization and what kind of workforce is constituted, it varies. This is a variable that I feel is significant in defining what you're asking and who is asking.
Thank you. Krishna, I'm sorry, I haven't forgotten
Absolutely
you.
fine. Just enjoying listening. Yeah.
So near and yet so far.
Sorry?
So near and yet so far. Let us continue on workplace. Choosing the right program. There are endless options for professional development today. How should someone decide between an executive diploma, an online course, or a full academic program? How do they define their need and what will best suit it?
See, this is critical at the same time simple. It's a mix. It might be confusing to hear this. If you're not sure of what you're going to become, you don't need to worry. I'm not trying to just say this. I'm already in this situation. I'm blessed with two beautiful daughters. One had a very clear vision that I'm going to be a psychologist. So she's doing a post-graduation, almost done and dusted. She has a clear. The younger one, till now, waiting for her results, has no clue what to do. But I'm absolutely fine. I don't put that pressure at all. There's no point. To be honest, now the education system is so flexible that you can pick it up. See, when I say that, she's not clear, that means she has not done some homework for her. I'm not going to blame for her because every individual as an adult should have their space. We cannot just pester them with, "No, you need to be this, you need to be that," and you lose. So at some point in time, for sure, I've met with, luckily for me, I've mentored around 25 to 30,000 students. Honestly, 80% of students would come back and I was thinking to become something. Now I'm like this. Because you put your money there and there is a continuing investment there. After that, you're being pulled into, certain area which you might not be interested. Then you gain interest and then you become something. But that's what, when it comes to my daughter, I was very specific to myself that I'm not going to force you. You know, yes, she did change 5 schools. She did change these 3 streams. I'm absolutely fine with it, provided I could manage her fees. Luckily, I could. And she was interested in sports. I was giving her that kind of a support. And I'm for sure that she's going to settle much better than the elder one. The reason because yes, she has not done a full homework. And if she's going to do the homework, it's going to be closer to what she's going to become. Now, my elder one has done a homework 10, say 6 years, 7 years back. She's going to become a health psychologist, whatever it is. She's going to figure out. But here, you have an option. So, to answer your question, let it be online, let it be offline, let it be, it's all depends on the experience, what you get. As I told you in the first, the universities give you the experience, network. Online, I don't think you'll find those networks in place. But you have different channels to improve your network. But when you talk about universities, the main difference and what our lecturers who bring in that changes is how to build that network and what is the use of the network. And next, the critical part here is unlearning. You know, we are talking about reskilling, upskilling. Yes, it's all fine. But to start with, you need to know what to unlearn, what to relearn. That's a very critical part here. I'll tell you an example. Say one of my colleague was working for top 100, one of the top 100 universities, and she came to us, and we are not in the top 100. So it took her so much time to unlearn that this is not top 100, and again, the whole market is being marketed by people like us about university ranking. Technically, university ranking, for me, it's for a different crowd. When a student is choosing an university, it should be more on what kind of experience you get there and what kind of network the university is going to provide. So in that way, online and other than the university learning, I would suggest, or my sincere advice would be to have it as an add-on. It cannot be the only source. You know, if you want that to be the only source, I think that the mindset would be very different. You know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hisham, how can you help professionals avoid the pitfalls of credential overload when studying, when building upon their studies, and focus on the impact of what they are learning, not just the letters or the pieces of paper?
I think that's a very apt question for Hisham because he does have a overload
Sorry,
of
yes,
credentials.
I was addressing to. Oh, does he? Oh, thank
So,
you.
I think that's a
Can you
very-
rattle off
yeah,
his
yeah.
letters for us?
Yeah, he has got about 45 letters behind his name. So probably an
I
apt
think
question
you've
for him.
embarrassed him now. Thank you for jumping in.
Around 26 years ago, I was.
I thought you were going to say 26 credentials.
No, no, I wish. So around 26 years ago, I had just finished school and I was standing under the balcony of school and I was thinking, okay, now what? So fortunately, one of my colleagues who was 1 year older to me, he passed by and he was one of the star students of the school. So I asked him, you qualified, what did you do? So he said, this is the qualification that I am following. And I asked him, okay, so where will this take you? And his answer was, this qualification is broad enough. It gives me the foundation to go wherever I want. So today he works for an investment bank in London. Unfortunately, he's lost all his hair. But he too has added a significant number of qualifications behind his name. So my one-word answer to that is mentoring. Speak to the people around you, speak to those that you admire, speak to those who can give you the words that will guide you in the direction that you want to go. Credential overload is essentially adding letters without a purpose, but upskilling is adding words that sing a song that take your career forward. Every qualification that I have done is purposeful. The reason I have done them is because for that point in my career, that skill will fill a gap that would help me to perform better and essentially solve a problem that I can't solve right now. So for example, back in the day, I did CFA level 1 because I used to be working in investment banking. But then I moved on to equities research, then I moved on into public sector. So then I did micro credentials on that particular area. The reason why you would seek a qualification is because it fills a gap in the person that you want to be. And if you're purposeful about who you want to be, what problems you want to solve, and where you want to go, then those credentials tend to find their way to you. It's a little bit like if we take the analogy of Talabat. If I open Talabat and say I'm hungry, it's not really going to help me. Or if I open my GPS and say, take me somewhere nice, it's not going to take me anywhere. But if you're able to find that person you want to become, and if you know this is where I want to go, what I want to be in 10 years' time, then the qualifications will find you. But then that circles back to a question that we had a little earlier. Why is a university degree 3 years or 4 years? Or why does a doctorate take 5 years? Because essentially for me, you will be able to qualify maybe in 6 months. Everything that we teach is freely available on YouTube. If you can waste enough time on YouTube, you can get the knowledge that you want. But what it doesn't give you is the skills to solve problems, because knowledge on its own does take you nowhere. I can learn to swim on YouTube, but chuck me in the water, I'll probably sink. So the reason why we take 3-year, 4-year, 5-year degrees is because experience without reflection is not worth the paper that it's been written on. If you can't go back, sit down in silence without your dopamine and without your devices and reflect on what did I do today, what did I gain today, and what problem can I solve, then employers have no use for that sort of employee. Because ultimately, however good your training programs are, however great the induction program is, you will be thrown in the deep end and expected to problem solve with lack of resources. So your ability to manage time, your ability to manage people, your ability to manage chaos, your ability to manage disruption comes from those moments of silence, not necessarily the letters behind your name, and the time that you spend qualifying yourself, grinding those hours, passing these exams, testing your limits, pushing yourself, and finding a person that you may not have known exists. That's the reason why you would add credentials. So, just to summarize, credential overload is purposeless adding of letters, but a purposeful, reflective exercise makes you a lifelong learner, and that results in a problem solver who becomes very important to the employer of the future.
Beautifully put. And I hope very much that the parents who are asking, why can my students not do this in 1 year? I hope very much that this is what the institutions are explaining to them and their children. Vignesh, let's move on to technology and adaptability. Do you know what topic I'm going to put to you right now? How has AI and tech adoption changed the kinds of skills that professionals now need to build or rebuild? I mean, we could keep going all night on this, couldn't we? If you have a couple of examples, concrete examples.
Absolutely. I think that's the big thing we all talk about. And honestly, I think we still haven't figured out. There's still a lot out there.
It's so new, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's evolving very rapidly for all of us.
So there's a land, and as we discussed earlier, what's relevant today will become irrelevant in a few months, if not years. And that's the challenge that we are facing. It is impacting everything. And again, as I mentioned, within my domain expertise of accounting and finance, we're seeing a lot of application of AI at workplace. Again, there is a fear there that it's replacing people, which I don't think is true.
No.
Jobs are evolving, jobs are changing. The jobs of yesterday are not the jobs of tomorrow. And that becomes necessary. And that's exactly the reason skilling up in this area matters. And that's where the micro credentials, the professional qualifications, the universities come in to continuously upgrade those programs and match the developments in the market, the expectations of the employers, and integrate that into the curriculum, the learning. Because as long as that's done, candidates keep, getting updated, stay on top of content. But it is influencing, I would say, every walk of life, and definitely finance and accounting.
And probably harking back to the generational point as well. I mean, it's up to us to keep up to speed to the graduates that are coming. And
Absolutely. And there's always learning from them as well. In the classrooms, we learn more from them on a lot of these things as well. And, that's the way the world is.
that's a lovely thought. Dr. Apita, I was just going to ask you, how are universities in the region tailoring their programs specifically for mid-career learners rather than fresh graduates? Am I still welcome at university?
Absolutely. So uh, because this comes from a personal experience, I can give you examples to help you understand as well. For mid-career learners, the programs are tailored where you can study. It may not go with a traditional study that like we all have studied. I come from a traditional setup, but this comes with a modular delivery of the programs. So if I'm a professional, I enroll myself, for example, in an executive MBA program, I can continue with my work. I can continue with my personal life. I can still study on my weekends. So there is a flexibility of time, flexibility of budget, flexibility of module delivery of the programs. And that allows mid career professionals to actually upgrade themselves and look for the next promotions. I actually meet a lot of such professionals for masters and doctorates as well, wherein they are probably already the CEO in their positions, and now the next thing that they're seeing in their academic credentials, academic basket, is to have a doctorate. So how are they managing with everything on their plate is the flexibility of the program, which is offered in this region, I think, quite vastly. And the programs are tailored, and module delivery doesn't heavy on you where you're studying a lot of things. So you complete a module, do with the assignments, complete the assessments, and you're good to go. So
It sounds almost like you can take it from a micro skilling perspective and then add it all up at the end.
micro skilling, I think, yes, it may bring in a very specific skill set. But if I'm talking about a program, for example, I said executive MBA specializing in engineering management. So I'm looking for that a specific skill set, like you're saying. Then, yes, every module may help you to understand the skill set that is required. But also at the same time, at the end, you are also a qualified MBA holder. And if at all, I can explain the same thing for a doctorate as well. So programs are pretty much tailored, curated to your requirements, curated to the learning outcomes, is pretty much tailored to what how applied these programs would be in the region. And this is very different from, I think, the setup that I come from. I've done a very conventional degree, but then eventually, with due course of time, I think the traditional may take a backseat. So that kind of curated learning programs are definitely in the region, and it is up for mid-career professionals, 100%. You're absolutely welcome.
Thank you very much. I mean, thank you for your response, not for not for my plaudits. I'd like to end on a lighter one now. I'd like to ask everyone what is one skill that they have had to upgrade recently and how have they been able to apply it? Krishna, can we start with you?
I think never stop learning. Let it be irrelevant also, but let's not stop the learning practice, because what has happened to the generation before us is they stopped learning. And see, you can adapt anything and everything, but if you stop learning and if you have that set of brain set, to change that is always very difficult.
So what is one skill that you have had to upgrade recently?
See, for me, I was always updated with what is happening with the AI, particularly. Now, I was very particular what exactly is happening, because AI is very rapid. Now, if you look back, Tesla came in by 2008. I'm 100% sure we still don't have an EV vehicle with us, right? Because I don't have one. So technically, but AI is very different. We all use Talabat, we all use Noon, we all use Timo. So that is what the impact is. Now my mom, who is now 70 plus, she has lot of updates. How? YouTube and WhatsApp. Did you see that? Did you see this? They were
Wow.
never trained. But now they talk about this information only through
That's
this.
great.
That is kind of an AI which understands what is your search and provides the required data there.
Wonderful.
So that's where we need to keep. You don't need to go to an university or a online course for this. It is
Thank you.
right in your hands. No?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vignesh, what is one skill that you have had to upgrade recently?
Learning to communicate and understand the psyche of the current generation. They think differently.
We
They
have
act
some running
differently.
themes in this panel today,
and,
don't
and,
we?
and just adapting to that is constant learning. And they know a lot more than we do, for sure.
Are you accepting submissions of work with emojis in now?
Not really. I don't think we have the freedom to do that because we teach for professional qualification exams.
How
which
about
are quite
grammar,
restrictive.
capital letters and punctuation?
There is definitely a lot more room there. But I think it's just the thinking, right? The priorities, what matters to them. Even when we come out and speak to students at, the fair, we meet lots of students. Uh, the way I would talk to somebody 10 years ago, what they look for, what we do with our products, what we offer in terms of learning has to resonate with the current generation. Else we become outdated, they don't.
Wonderful. Hisham, what's something you've had to update lately?
The skill that I spent a lot of time over the last decade upskilling comes from one need, and that need can be summarized in one word, and that word is resonance. Because in the businesses that I have been, it becomes really important for me to be able to connect with someone with authenticity, sincerity, and credibility. So, the one skill that I've spent an enormous amount of time trying to build has been the skill of storytelling. If you're able to take a number and build a narrative around it, and also if you're able to connect on an emotional level with your audience, I find that that brings me to a certain place where I can perform what I believe I was put on this earth to do, which is to give a skill to someone so that their life becomes a lot better. Because I'll be in the same classroom doing the same lesson, but based on that classroom, if someone else can become a CFO, CEO, finance director, I'm quite happy with it. So if a story that I can say, an example that I can give you authentically connects with you and then gives you that spark to become a better version of you, that's something that's really important to me. So I've spent an enormous amount of time upskilling myself on storytelling in the class as well as on my favorite platform, which is LinkedIn. So I joined a Toastmasters club. I competed like crazy, and I also completed the highest designation for Toastmaster, the distinguished Toastmaster qualification, not once but twice. So this is something that I did since October 2015.
Now you're just bragging. I was going to say that I think your feedback, I'm sure that your feedback would reflect that you're able to connect like that. And
Thankfully,
apologies
yes.
for my poor taste.
No, of course not. Thankfully, yes. It has been something important because previously people used to take trainers, teachers, lecturers, coaches at face value. They would accept that what comes out of your mouth is gospel truth. It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
So if that
I
is the
remember
case,
being talked at in my lectures.
so that ability to, and ultimately your greatest competitor is dopamine. So if you're unable to compete with the beep of a WhatsApp message in your class, then you become irrelevant rather quickly. So if you're able to reach visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, if you're able to reach someone who's focused and also distracted, if you're able to connect with someone who is in a happy mood but also might be someone else who is in a distress mood, and do this all within the same 3-hour class, then that's a skill worth doing. But
I
it's,
think your students are very lucky.
thank you, you're very kind.
Dr. Arpita, what's something that you've had to update recently?
I think it's a bit more of what he has already mentioned, but I'll be very specific. What I am looking at is something using more of tech in my finance. Is and especially like he's used the term stories. So narration of stories and numbers is very important. So data visualization is something that I'm working on right now, so that I'm able to present a very complex financial case studies or financial ideas to my student in a simpler manner, and at the same time I'm able to integrate some recent tech. Then that is something is I'm on working. And one more that I'm working on is programming in my finance. So you asked me one, but I'm just saying data visualization with some AI platform, which is the Tableau. And the second that I'm working on is a Python programming integrating into my finance. That's what I'm working on right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your participation, your expertise, your wisdom.
Can I just add one?
You have another skill you've needed to update?
Yeah, I think I missed out maybe. Just wanted to add one point here. See, I think, see, you have to listening to us. Unfortunately, we are all from finance background because I used to work for a leading bank for 10 years. So, but again, what I realized is, yes, you heard it from the experts. When I say experts, it's again experience. But to be, honest, relax. In the sense, I'm a biker. Okay, I take my bike by 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't think anyone knows what it gives you, right? Likewise, you have individual skills, you individual things which will give you the relaxations. So for your kids also, let them think. Don't. The best way to help them is to bring in events like this. Let them talk to experts like this. Let them understand. Let them decide. Rather than
Thank
pushing it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your insights today. What a wonderfully curated panel we've had here today. I've really benefited from hearing your insights and your expertise. Thank you. Dr. Arpita Malhotra, the Assistant Dean at Westford, Hisham Jeffrey, Course Manager and Senior CMA Trainer at PwC Academy Middle East, Vignesh Sivakumar, Operations Director at Phoenix Financial Training, and Krishma Kumar Nagade, the Head of Recruitment and External Engagement at De Montfort University, Dubai. Thank you all so much.